Part 4. Pirate's Bounty Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 31. The town's wharf is very lively, with fishing boats entering the port, merchant ships visiting, and navy warships patrolling. Shung. But the ship that came in today looks very unusual. Pirate Hunter. Someone looked at the sails on the boat and read the words on them. Then everyone looked at each other with big eyes and small eyes. It's not that they are ignorant and don't know the existence of pirate hunters, but generally speaking, there are very few pirate hunters. Because there are too many pirates. When a hunter hunts a group of lions, it is worth pondering who is the hunter and who is the prey. Moreover, no hunter dared to write his identity on the sail, and then sail into the sea. It was like rushing into a wolf's lair, and kept bleating like a sheep. I had never seen such a joy in looking for death. Then a scene that truly refreshed our outlook happened. A group of people got off the boat, a group of people who looked sallow and thin, and walked unsteadily. They were locked together with ropes and shackles, connected back and forth, and walked off the boat little by little with a painful pace. It's a pirate, right? Impossible. Everyone knows about pirates and has seen them before, but who has seen so many pirates? The important thing is, who has seen so many pirates who have been passed the exam? 1, 2, 10, 20, it can't be hundreds. How on earth did he do such a thing when he was really captured by a pirate hunter? Wait a minute, who is that guy? He was the one who was tied up in chains and then carried by those pirates. Someone with good eyesight found a few special pirates carried by this group of pirates. The special reason is that their entire bodies are bound, wrapped in chains into a cocoon, and only one head is exposed, just like a caterpillar. It looks familiar. Found it, found it. The great pirate with a bounty of 15 million, Bucky the Clown. 15 million. Are these all his men? No. There's another guy wearing a captain's uniform. Who on earth can catch all these vicious guys is simply incredible. I heard a news from Orange Town before. Bucky, the clown in Orange Town, was caught, and the person who caught him was. This voice suddenly appeared, and everyone immediately focused their attention on him. After receiving so many attentions, the man smiled slightly and said, "That person is, Nalas Luagu." It did cause a certain amount of sensation. After all, it is understandable that such a large number of pirates have been caught, causing crowds to watch. Luogu walked forward behind all the pirates, and while walking, he waved to the people around him with a smile on his face. It seems that it is quite burnt. What's even more burning is that when Luogu smiled and waved at them, they would give out huge cheers. Luogu was a bit dumbfounded. Why did he look like a traffic snitch? Cindy walked in front of Luogu, took 2 steps, and looked back at Luogu. He did not receive any special treatment, which seemed to explain Luogu's attitude towards him. But Cindy felt that things like attitudes would change, as long as Luogu felt compassion. However, Luogu didn't seem to have that heart at all. No matter how many times he looked at him, Luogu remained unmoved. The navy by the pier was also alarmed, and several teams lined up. After figuring out what was going on, they were overjoyed, helping to maintain order and avoid chaos. Seeing this, Cindy knew that if she didn't speak, she would really have no chance. "Captain, please keep me, I'm useful." He knew that Luogu was not very proficient in navigation, so he must have value in Luogu's eyes. The smile on Luogu's face did not change, he just asked softly, "What are you for?" "I know how to sail. I can take you to Ziluabia village. Besides, you can also take me to find the legendary big pirate, right?" Luogu said with a smile. "Actually, I'm very curious. If this time, it wasn't because the food was really about to bottom out, would you have brought me here?" Cindy was taken aback for a moment, and her face turned pale. Luogu patted Xind on the shoulder, I have a sentence for you. The machine was too smart, but it cost Ching Ching's life. Although it may be difficult to understand the meaning of the sentence based on your cultural background, you often think about it. Well, it's good for something. Are you Mr. Nurse Raghu? As soon as he finished speaking to Cindy, he heard such a voice. Logogu looked up and saw a young lieutenant commander standing not far away. Logogu smiled and nodded. You know me? No, I know Lord Lester. The Navy lieutenant commander came to Logogu with a smile on his face and said, Sir Lester just left here 2 days ago and went to the Navy headquarters. When we occasionally chatted, I learned about you from the adults, and Mr. Lester said, you are a person who can create miracles, and you have become a pirate hunter. I originally couldn't understand miracles well, but now, I understand. The young major had excitement on his face and excitement in his heart. Why can Lester suddenly go to the Navy headquarters to study? Isn't it because he caught 2 big pirates? But this time, when Logogu arrived, he directly sent 4 famous pirates named on the wanted poster. What is this? This is military merit. This means promotion and salary increase. Means training qualification. It means that you can continue to climb up in the Navy's system. Oh. Logogu understood after listening, and immediately waved his hand and said, since we are acquaintances, well, the total value of these 4 is 124 million, and the remaining ones are in total. Let's settle the accounts. It's exactly what Mr. Lester said, he is a meticulous person. The major quickly said, okay, plus the 2799200 million from these 4 people, the total is belly. Yeah, Logogu blinked. Little pirate, how much does one cost? 8,000 Baileys each. Logogu was silent for a moment and then asked, what's your name? Ah, Keith, my name is Mr. Keith. The major still looked excited. Logogu nodded with satisfaction. Very good, Keith, if you have a chance to see Lester in the future, can you do me a favor? Of course, I can do whatever I want. Keith nodded immediately, and his agreement was straightforward. Very good, then help me give him a hard kick on his butt. The effect should be that his face touches the ground and he is rubbed on the ground. The length of the friction should be 3 meters. 3 meters is enough. Logogu said seriously. Keith. Pirate's bounty, don't run away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 32. This seems like a very complicated requirement, kicking someone in the butt and landing on their face. If the person is bent over, the situation, it is not difficult. But if the person does not bend over, but stands straight, it will be a bit strenuous. Secondly, you have to rub your face on the ground. There are still requirements for the length of the friction, 3 meters, too much or too little. It's really hard. Keith was caught in a dilemma, what should he do and whether he could do it? He was actually thinking. Logogu was surprised that this guy actually started to think about the possibility. He patted him on the shoulder and said, don't think about it yet. Keith glanced at Logogu, he was planning to give up. Give me the money first, and you can think slowly after you're done, Logogu said. It is good. Keith smiled and started making arrangements. For the containment of these pirates, a series of procedures have to be carried out. During the process, Logogu was invited into the naval garrison. Logogu was idle and bored, so he took a book from the shelf next to him and read it. After reading it, Logogu became thoughtful. People are alive, in fact, many things can be learned. It is definitely impossible for someone like Cindy to use it, and I will not be able to find a navigator like Nami for a while, and even if I find it, they may not be willing to help me. In this case, it is better to seek help from others than from yourself. Isn't it just navigation? Can't you learn it yourself? So, when Keith came back and sat across from Logogu, he heard Logogu say, is there any book on introductory navigation that I would like to read? That's no problem. Do you plan to teach yourself navigation? Keith smiled. Actually, there are many such talents in the Navy. If you need them, I can introduce two to you. They can be pirate hunters with me. I think it's not difficult for you to stay here and study with them for a while. Keith said. Luogu thought for a while, then shook his head. The sea is waving to me, and so is wealth. Then please wait a moment. Keith had just sat down, and before the chair was warmed, he stood up again and went out, and came back in less than 10 minutes. In his hand, he carried 2 oversized money bags and 8 smaller bags containing millions of berries. There are 2 books under his arm. These 2 books are given to you. They summarize everything about navigation in detail. These are your bounties. To be honest, being able to take out so much bounty in one go is very important to us. It's not easy either. Thank you. Luogu took the book and packed it up, then picked up the bounty and said, "Let's go." Oh, Keith stood up. Are you leaving now? Well, by the way, the request I made to you before. Luogu glanced at him and said, "If you can complete it, I will give you a big gift." It might have been just a joke at first, but after Keith thought about it seriously, Rogu felt that this joke might become a reality. If that's the case, why not give it a push? Keith blinked, but said nothing. Luogu smiled and said, "Let's go." Then he really left. As for whether or not Keith will kick Lester's ass, it is obviously hard to say now. Although I heard Keith keep calling Lester as an adult, to put it bluntly, the military ranks of the two are the same now, and the rank will be raised after Lester is trained in the Navy headquarters, and at that time, Keith will not sure where. But to say that Luogu gave him a bad promise, that's not necessarily the case. The situation in life is magical, especially in this world where anything can happen. On the sea, who knows where you will be tomorrow? What kind of things will you do? One day, if Keith really finds Luogu and expresses that he has fulfilled the agreement like a joke, then such an interesting person, Luogu really doesn't mind giving him a good thing. In the final analysis, things like this in the future are just a matter of waiting and seeing. When Luogu came out of the Navy station, he forgot about the incident of angrily kicking Lester Tun. Walking through the streets with big bags and small bags. It's not that he doesn't want to find a place for these things to be included in the Hunter certificate, it's just that this incident has caused a relatively large sensation. So much so that after coming out, you can still see the people surrounded by the naval base on 3 floors inside and outside. After seeing Luogu come out with so much wealth, the expressions of the people were as excited as if they had been pumped with chicken blood. This feeling of being surrounded by people is actually good at first, but after a long time, it feels very troublesome. After finally squeezing out the crowd and returning to his own boat, Luogu was relieved. Then put the bounty into the Hunter license. 28 million were taken in, and the 8,000 Baileys left vacant were filled by Keith. He didn't care, after all, Lester helped him make up for more than just, although he also cheated himself a lot. A little pirate with UN actually took UN. This grandson was lining his own pockets. But looking at the balance on the Hunter certificate, he nodded in satisfaction. Now, the balance on his Hunter license is 7527000. It looks really super rich, but after careful consideration, it is nothing more than 7 black iron coins. The distance between the target gold coin and the target gold coin is more than thousands of miles away. Stretching his waist, Luogu decided to stay here for 2 days first, read the book, figure out what navigation is, and then replenish some supplies, fresh water from the town. Finally there is the crew. Flotta's group of pirates have all been handed over to the Navy, and the ship must be organized in order. And if I can catch a few less famous pirates from a small town and work on the ship, can I still attract big fish? Thinking about it this way, Luogu suddenly felt a little eager to try. But in the end, I resisted the urge. It was still daytime, and I had to do this kind of thing at night. Then I went to the tavern to have a look, maybe I had a goal. When night fell, Luogu put down the half-read book and rubbed his brows to soothe his nerves. He got up and decided to enter the town to look for food, and at the same time, to see if there were any suitable targets. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly patted his face and said, "Today, I seem to be a little famous. Well, why don't I cover it up?" Thinking of this, he took a face towel and covered his face. And found a cowhide hat from the cabin, and buckled it on his head. Kuromaru and Arita put all the iron rods on their bodies and didn't even change their clothes. To be honest, this disguise was very insincere. With this insincere disguise, he disembarked and set off. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate's Bounty, Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 33. The tavern is lively at night, and the cowboy door is pushed open from time to time, making creaking sounds, and all kinds of rough laughter come from inside, which never makes the night lonely. Point 1 Kanju. Luogu was sitting in the corner at this time, ordered beer and food, and while eating and drinking, looked at all kinds of people in the bar with some disappointment. There are no pirates. Also, the food wasn't very tasty. This made Luogu miss Cindy a little bit. Among other things, at least in terms of cooking, this guy is really good. If you don't have it, you don't have it. After eating, go back to the boat and sleep. Luogu sighed softly, and decided to go to the pier tomorrow to have a look. The only thing worth mentioning tonight is that no one saw through his insincere disguise. It's amazing. Just as the last bite of the meal was about to be finished, the cowboy door of the tavern was suddenly pushed open again. Luogu glanced at it indifferently, and didn't think it would be rewarding. However, upon seeing this, he was stunned. The person who came was very interesting. He entered the door backwards, moonwalking under his feet, knocked open the cowboy door with his back, and then entered the bar. Behind him, or should I say in front of him, were two people, one fat and one thin, dressed in very subtle ways. The thin man has green hair, and his bangs are permed into a curl that goes out diagonally. On the other hand, the fat man has a short crew cut. On the left eye, there is a dark spot that is directly connected to the hair. It is not known whether it was born or got tattooed later. The people in the tavern, as usual, paid attention to the people who came, and then they should brag and talk. A smile could not be suppressed from the corner of Luogu's mouth. Wanted order. Zango. Bounty 9 million Bailey. Qualified for arrest. Wanted order. Cat Brother Butch. Bounty 350,000 Bailey. Qualified for arrest. Wanted order. Cat Brother Sam. Bounty 350,000 Bailey. Qualified for arrest. I should say that the people of the Black Cat Pirates are hard to find anywhere, so it takes no effort to get them. Captain Crow, who is hidden in Ziluabia village that Luogu misses so much, is the original leader of this pirate group. I originally planned to deal with Crow first and then go to find you, but I didn't expect to meet you here by chance. It's simply a fateful meeting. What was even more fateful was that these three people sat directly at a table not far from Luogu. They looked very low-key, asked for some food and drink, and kept silent. Luogu also remained silent. It's a bit annoying to be tossing around during the day, and it doesn't feel so comfortable to be surrounded by people, otherwise, he wouldn't have put on a careless disguise at night. So he suppressed his mood, sneaked a peek, and prepared to arrest them after these people had left. Then he discovered that these three people were not completely silent. When the people in the tavern mentioned the words Narasraga bounty hunter has nearly million, their ears would always stand up. No more, no more. An old man with a red face stood up unsteadily. If I don't go home, my wife will let me sleep at the door. Ha ha ha, henpecked guy. You are not afraid. Of course I'm afraid. There was a burst of laughter in the tavern, and the uncle also smiled smugly. Although he didn't know what was so smug, he staggered out of the tavern after laughing. Zhang Jiao and the others stood up silently at this time, and then walked out. Luo Gu looked at the backs of these three people, nodded thoughtfully, and got up to pay the bill. In a simple town, at night, places like taverns will be particularly lively. The street was deserted. Luo Gu followed the figures of three people from a distance, and soon came to a small alley. In the alley, the middle-aged uncle was surrounded, his eyes dull. Zhang Jiao was just asking how many accomplices does that pirate hunter have. Do not know. Is that the ship with the word pirate hunter on it? Yes. Zhang Gao asked a question, and the uncle answered a question, which can be said to be an answer to every question. This is Zhang Jiao's specialty, hypnosis. Only after he couldn't get anything out of the middle-aged uncle's mouth did Zhang Jiao look back at the Catman brothers. Bucky the Clown is a great pirate with a bounty of million. The order is written on the sail. The guy who hates words doesn't look simple. The Cat brothers looked at each other and asked, what should we do? In a few months, we will meet Captain Crow. Although the pirate hunter and the large amount of bounty he carries with him are a good gift, but for this matter, if Captain Crow's plan is allowed to, if we fail, we will all die. Luo Gu listened to them with his head propped up at the entrance of the alley, but when he heard this, he was a little unhappy. He had seen it before in the bar. These guys are very interested in themselves. But now, they don't dare to provoke them because they caught Bucky the Clown. As men on the sea, you are really embarrassed, right? The most important thing is that if they go to their own ship, it won't save you the trouble of dragging them aboard, right? Rogu didn't plan to give these people to Keith directly. The location of Ziluabia village is unknown to others, but they must know. Such a good guide, such a coolie so close at hand, if I give up, God will strike me with thunder. Thinking of this, he felt that he should do something, so he kicked a brick on the ground with his foot. Who is it? Zhang Jiao looked sharply at the entrance of the alley and yelled, chase. In fact, there is no need to chase. Because Luo Gu didn't run away at all, but silently took the iron rod in his hand after they came over. The Cat brothers were on the left and right, and Zhang Jiao stood opposite Luo Gu, with the wall behind Luo Gu. At this moment, it really feels like a fight in school. You heard what we just said? Zhang Jiao asked with a serious face. Luo Gu thought for a while, and felt that there seemed to be nothing undeniable, so he nodded. Zhang Jiao's expression was very strange. He gritted his teeth and said, where are you from? Luo Gu felt that there seemed to be nothing to hide, so he pointed at the big ship on the pier. From this position, he could just see the four characters Pirate Hunter. You got off that Pirate Hunter's ship? Zhang Jiao frowned. His first reaction was that his group was discovered by this Pirate Hunter. But after thinking about it, I feel that the matter is not simple. If it is really that Pirate Hunter, he probably has already started. After all, there is such a big scene today that the whole town is talking about it. It can be seen that this Pirate Hunter also likes fame. The guy in front of him was in the tavern before. If he is really the Pirate Hunter, there is no reason not to take action in front of everyone, because this can make his reputation even better. Therefore, Zhang Jiao could be sure that this guy was definitely not the Pirate Hunter. He pondered a little and asked, are you a pirate? On the Pirate Hunter's ship, of course not only the Pirate Hunter can get off, the pirates may also escape from that ship. After all, from what those people said today, no one said that all the pirates on that ship were handed over to the Navy, and maybe some of them slipped through the net. Hearing what he said, Luo Gu silently put away his iron rod and nodded quietly. Zhang Jiao was immediately overjoyed. Then do you know what arrangements are there on that ship now? Where is that pirate hunter now? Well, I can take you there, kill him, and give me some money. Luogu finally opened his mouth to speak. If this sentence can save them the effort of knocking them unconscious and dragging them onto the boat, then Luogu thinks what he said is worthwhile. Pirate's Bounty Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 34. Luogu found what happened next to be very strange. Sheng. In the middle of the night, in such a small town, as a pirate hunter, I was leading 3 pirates to capture me. It's simply full of integrity. Well, why did you mention moral integrity? Or should I say, these innocent pirates are just so silly and cute. Not only did he fail to see through his innocent disguise, he didn't even delve into his own identity. Although they also asked about Rogu's strength before setting off, at that time Rogu just said, "The 4 of us are enough." Then they believed it so stupidly and naively, they didn't even go back to their boat, and went to ask their little brothers to come and help. But Luogu can understand this point. For things like murder, the more people the better, but for things like money, the fewer people the better. People die for money and birds die for food. This is an unbreakable truth in any world. If there is a word, it will be long, but if there is no word, it will be short. In a blink of an eye, he has already arrived in front of Luogu's ship. The 4 characters of Pirate Hunter were swaying in the wind. Luogu glanced at the flag and felt that it might be exposed. After all, his own weapons, Kuromaru and Alrita iron rod, were painted on the flag. Especially when he found that Zhang Jiao was looking at the flag above his head, he quietly put one hand on the iron rod. Once Zhang Jiao made a gesture, he would do it immediately. Anyway, it's already here now. Luogu is not the kind of guy who is particularly lazy and salty, and he thinks that knocking them over here and throwing them on the boat doesn't seem to be too much trouble. This flag, Zhang Jiao said, it's so ugly. Well, it's incomparable to our pirate flag. Burgess said. Are we going to get on the boat directly? Sam on the other side asked. Not exposed. Luogu let go of the hand holding the iron rod, nodded and said, he is the only one on the boat. Hey hey hey. Brother Catman let out a laugh, as if he felt sure. Zhang Jiao said, don't be careless. It's not that easy to catch a big pirate like Bucky the Clown. While talking, get on the boat first. The Cat brothers glanced at Luogu, and Luogu followed Zhang Jiao up, and then the 2 brothers went up. The boat was naturally empty, but Zhang Jiao acted very cautiously. He walked cautiously on the deck step by step, trying not to make too much noise. As he walked, he asked Luogu, where is he? Luogu followed Zhang Jiao's example and walked on his boat like a thief, while pointing to the cabin on the 2nd deck, the bedroom is above. Where's the treasure? Zhang Jiao asked again. Luogu was silent for a moment, what to say? I never thought that this play could be performed to this extent. This line has not been written yet. Now I can't tell others that all the so-called treasures are on my body. He simply pointed to the lower deck and said, they are all in the lowest cabin. The lower cabins were all prisons, and some of the empty boxes previously obtained from Flota's ship were placed in the cells as beds for the pirates to rest. Then let's go downstairs first, Zhang Jiao said. Tell me, if that guy wakes up and finds that all the treasures are gone, will he go crazy? The Catman brothers let out a deep laugh as if they were applauding. Luogu pulled the corner of his mouth, feeling that Zhang Jiao's real thoughts might be different from what he said. He has been saying that he is afraid of being able to catch a pirate like Bucky the Clown. How can this pirate hunter come to the end? Well, it's normal. Judging from the price point, this guy does have a reason to be afraid. But to Luogu, it didn't matter whether they were going up or down. It would be better to go downstairs. The prisoner goes directly into the cell, which saves the police a lot of effort. if there was a selection of the most conscious pirates, then the three of them, Zhang Jiao, would definitely be the best performers so far. This time Luogu simply walked ahead and opened the door of the lower cabin for them. Under the leadership of Luogu, a group of people slowly climbed down the steps, but after 2 steps, Luogu was held down by Zhang Gao's shoulders. Yeah, Luogu glanced at him. I'll go ahead, Zhang Jiao grinned, don't worry, it will definitely be good for you. This is because I am afraid that I will walk ahead and compete with him. He shrugged his shoulders and stood on the edge, waiting for Zhang Jiao to pass by. Then the Catman brothers also passed by, and while passing by Luogu, they gave Luogu a very naughty look. Luogu scratched his head, feeling a little embarrassed. Although he didn't know why he was embarrassed, he just felt that these 3 brothers were quite pitiful, and they were all good people. Immediately, he took the iron rod in his hand and followed behind the 3 of them. Soon, the 4 of them reached the bottom. Cells appeared in front of them one after another. Luogu felt that this was like sending Buddha to the west. They brought the 3 pirates here directly, so it's time to see them. They should also know that they have been deceived. Well, it's time to get serious. Luogu waited, and sure enough he heard Zhang Jiao's angry questioning, damn it, you didn't even tell us that the treasure is locked in here. Luogu blinked, the door is unlocked. What? Zhang Jiao stretched out his hand, and sure enough, the door of the cell was opened. He burst out laughing, he's too careless. After finishing speaking, he rushed directly to the boxes. The Cat brothers rushed into the cell, and the 3 huddled together to surround the box inside. Zhang Jiao squatted in front of the box, opened the lock of the box with a sacred look on his face, and then lifted it up with both hands. The 3 heads piled into the box. Click. A crisp sound came from behind. The 3 of them suddenly turned their heads and saw Luogu yawning. The 3 faces were dumbfounded. Zhang Jiao stood up with a blank face, walked to the door, and gently pushed the door of the cell without moving. Locked? He asked Luogu. Very strong. Luogu nodded. It was not locked just now. Well, I locked it. Why? Don't ask, you are too embarrassed to ask, but I am too embarrassed to answer. Luogu smiled awkwardly. To be honest, I also feel that this is quite inappropriate, but it is really convenient. He has never seen such a conscious pirate, really. And thinking about it carefully, from the first meeting to the present, I really don't seem to have said much. 4 or 5 sentences or 5 or 6 sentences. All in all, these guys believed in themselves so inexplicably that Luogu couldn't believe it, and then they walked into the cell consciously, and the only thing they did was to lock the door. Perfect. Luogu doesn't even know why he's so perfect. Pirate's Bounty. Don't run away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 35. Zhang Jiao stood in the cell, with the Cat brothers behind him. Point 1. Kanju. The 3 of them showed the same expression of understanding life together. Luogu stood outside the door, looking a little shy and embarrassed, with an embarrassing smile like a student who has done something wrong. The 2 sides just looked at each other like this. After about 10 minutes, Zhang Jiao's face turned red. Embarrassment, anger, despair, and the emotions of being ashamed to face others piled up repeatedly in my heart. He thought he had followed Captain Crow for a long time. Although he was not as smart as Beiji Crow, he was still close to Zujechi, and he was not without brains. But after turning the whole thing around in his mind, he realized that he was too smart, that's why he fell to this end. When I met Luogu, if I didn't think too much, it would be absolutely reasonable to directly identify him as a pirate hunter. After all, Luogu said at the time that he came from this ship. Be yourself and think that things are not simple. And through various clues reasoning, I think this guy is definitely not the pirate hunter. And if it's a pirate who got off this ship, then there's no reason not to trust him. After all, Pirates and pirate hunters are definitely two extremes that are irreconcilable. But the result? Believe that the result is now like this? Damn it! Zhang Jiao glared at Luogu, are you that pirate hunter? Luogu nodded calmly, actually, outside the tavern, if you asked me that, I would just nod. Really, at the beginning, Luogu really didn't intend to lie. I don't want to do anything in the tavern, I just don't want to be watched. Nei Zhang Jiao was too consciously imagined something for himself, and then believed it calmly, which made Luogu feel that it would be a sin not to lie to them. But what a heart-pounding statement this is. Zhang Jiao was about to cry, I can't spare you. Do you think the cell can lock me up? There is an extra ring on his hand, except for the position where the hand is held, the rest is a layer of sharp blades. With an angry shout, the ring flew out from the gap between the bars of the cell with a flick of his hand, and was caught by Luogu. The air condensed for a moment. It seems that there are crows flying slowly in the sky, leaving behind an embarrassing cry. That, can you return it to me? Django broke the silent air. Luogu shook his head, and hung the sharp blade ring on his waist, it's not bad as an ornament. Give it back to me, give it back to me. Zhang Jiao bit his lower lip, begging with a sad face. With the ring in place, I could still cut off the railing. Why did I just throw myself at Luogu in a twitch? Knowing that this guy is not an easy pirate hunter, why would he do this? Regret was brewing, which made him a little perverted, please. Luogu shook his head firmly. Let's come. The Catman brother behind him suddenly spoke. Zango looked back at the two of them, then stepped aside. It's just a prison cell. The two brothers stood together, shoulder to shoulder, expressing their disdain for the current situation, we'll break it for you. The two people's hands popped out sharp nails at the same time, and then scratched frantically at the railing. It is undeniable that their nails are indeed very sharp and terrifying. In fact, they should not be nails, but their weapons, right? The railings were rubbed with a series of sparks, which looked colorful and beautiful. However, it didn't help. Luogu yawned and said, you guys sharpen your claws slowly, I have to go up and sleep. Hey, don't go, Zhang Jiao hurriedly shouted, give me back my weapon. Luogu ignored him and disappeared in a blink of an eye. Damn it! Zhang Jiao roared up to the sky, and then heard the sound of the door locking from above. The whole world went dark. The Cat brothers also stopped sharpening their claws, looked at Zhang Jiao together, and said 1,000 words into one sentence, what should I do? Zhang Jiao also wanted to know what to do. Finally, he gritted his teeth and said cruelly, the boat sank. Can you make a hole in it? Pointing to the position behind them, the two brothers looked at each other, and then decided to sleep. The place Zango pointed to was covered with a layer of iron. Since it is a prison cell, although it may not be very strong, but what should be done must be done, otherwise, let those relatively special pirates come in and destroy it casually, then what a fart. And so the last night passed. The three of Zhang Jiao still didn't fall asleep all night, and the Cat brothers didn't have such a big heart. They couldn't get out of the prison, and the boat couldn't be destroyed. It's not that they haven't tried it. Has no effect. The three of them pondered and brainstormed all night, and finally felt that there seemed to be no good solution. It wasn't until the sound of the door opening was heard above their heads that their spirits were shaken and they looked up together. I saw Luogu walking down with breakfast. Zhang Jiao thinks that the only thing to be gratified about is that the quality of the food is not bad. Meat with a good color, a whole plate, a large glass of milk and 2 large loaves of bread exudes an attractive aroma. Good morning. Luogu greeted Zhang Jiao and the others with a smile, then put the breakfast on the table next to him, and turned to go up again. Zhang Jiao and the others looked at each other, well, are you going to let us out later and eat there? Lock it up after eating, Bouletinji felt incomprehensible. Sam sneered, "After you get out, tear up this nasty bastard first." The three nodded together. Then I saw Luogu moved a chair down with two books under his arm. Putting the chair next to the table, he sat down, breathed a sigh of relief, and then broke off a piece of bread. "You haven't eaten yet, have you?" The three nodded together. Luogu nodded and took a bite of the bread. "Then I can rest assured." A mouthful of bread, a mouthful of meat, and a mouthful of milk. Luogu ate slowly, chewed slowly, and read the book in his hand while eating, very seriously. The three of Zhang are almost going crazy. This bastard, he didn't eat breakfast for himself. "If you don't give it, you can eat it yourself. Why do you want to show us to eat it in front of us?" The crazy resentment surged, and along with the resentment, their saliva also surged. They swallowed it while watching, which made it even more desolate. Finally, Luogu finished eating, cleaned up the dishes and went up. The three of them let out a long breath, feeling as if they had gone through a catastrophe. "We must find a way to escape from here." Zhang Jiao had a ferocious look on his face, and the cat brothers nodded together. A few hours passed, and before I could figure out a solution, the sound of the door opening came again. Luogu walked down slowly with a large plate in both hands, and it was full of food. After seeing the three of Zhang Jiao, he smiled all over his face. "Good afternoon, it's time for lunch. You haven't eaten yet, have you?" praised the three of them. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate's Bounty, Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 36. The days passed by day. In fact, not a few days passed, only 2 or 3 days at best. Point 1 Kanju. The three people in the cell were basically pale and emaciated. Because during these 3 days, Luogu not only didn't give him food, he didn't even give him water. It's okay for a person not to eat, but not to drink water, it's really a bit unbearable. Zhang Jiao felt that his lips were dry and his hands and feet had no strength. At the beginning, he was still able to persevere, and he still had the strength to think of a way here. But now, with a little thought, there is a feeling that all the strength in my body has been exhausted. The cat brothers beside him are similar, like two dead cats, lying on the ground and not wanting to move. The sound of the door opening came from above again. Zhang Jiao knew that it was time for dinner. That nasty pirate hunter didn't know what he was going to do, and every time it was time to eat, he would come down with food. Eating in front of them, eating and drinking is very happy. And for the three of them, at the beginning, they were just greedy, but now, those foods are like their lives. They just watched Luogu, eating their lives one bite at a time. That kind of pain made them feel as comfortable as being cut into pieces by Luogu. "Good evening, it's time to eat again, and you must have not eaten." Luogu's opening remarks were similar, without much change. It's okay, although there is no food to eat, it should actually be a kind of happiness to be able to watch people eat. Sitting on the chair, Luogu ate mouthful. The difference is that this time he is really just focusing on eating, and the books that he should read every time are gone now. Is it over? Zhang Gao felt that he still admired himself, that he still had the time to think about these things. There was a lot of food prepared tonight. After Luogu was full, there was still a piece of bread left. He looked a little embarrassed holding the bread. He patted his already satisfied belly. Wasting food is a crime. Then he took the bread and came to the cell of the three of Zhang Jiao, and said with a smile, "You guys, do you want to eat?" 3 people, 6 pairs of eyes, all blood red. He tried to speak, but found that his throat was as painful as a knife cut, so he could only show pitiful eyes to Luogu. Luogu smiled slightly. "If you want to eat, It's actually not difficult. If any of you are willing to tell me something, I will give him food. The three nodded together. Siluabia village, do you know where it is? Rogu asked with a smile. 10 days later, a small boat came to the shore of Ziluabia village. The small boat with only one mast swayed gently with the wind and leaned against the shore unsteadily. The young man jumped off the boat with an iron rod and a knife on his back. The boat was tied to a tree on the shore with a rope, and Luogu looked back at the hillside behind him, with a smile on his lips. It only took 10 days to come here from the small town of Keith. Because the words bounty hunter on the big ship might scare away his prey, so Luogu used a small boat to come over, and the big ship temporarily anchored at sea. It's finally here. Stretching for a while, Luogu sighed with emotion. Although there were not too many twists and turns along the way, it was like a god's help. But after all, this is the location of the first arrest target on the arrest list, and Luogu feels that it is still necessary to express his respect for this. Going up the hillside, within 2 steps, a strong phoenix sounded in my ears. Luogu didn't even move, and a projectile flew past from about 3 feet away from Luogu. Apparently, the attacker just wanted to send a warning. There was a smile on the corner of Luogu's mouth, and when he looked up, he saw the pirate flag supported by wooden sticks on the hillside, between the grass on the upper soil slope on both sides, being lifted up one after another. A burst of wild laughter sounded from the front. When he looked up, he saw a long-nosed boy standing in front of a big tree, folding his arms and looking down at Luogu. I am Usopp, who leads the pirate group that rules over this village. People praise me very much. Call me our captain, Captain Usopp. If you want to attack this village, I advise you to give up, because my million subordinates will not let you go. Countless pirate flags in the grass fluttered with the wind, and they fell with these words, which is indeed a bit of a momentum. Rogu looked at Usopp with a strange look. Although I knew I would definitely see this guy when I came here, I didn't expect that I would enjoy the same treatment as Luffy and the others. It's amazing, million subordinates. Luogu clapped his hands without any sincerity, and then walked forward. Hey, didn't you hear what I said? This is my place, and I'm Captain Usopp. Usopp said loudly, this village is occupied by me. If you want to harm this place, you will have to bear the anger of my million subordinates. Hey, did you hear that? Damn it! Seeing that Rogu continued to move forward, Usopp took the slingshot and shot Rogu again. Luogu stretched out 2 fingers, and after they passed by the head, there was already a projectile between them. I know, I'm looking forward to the day when you have million subordinates. While Rogu was talking, he had already come to Usopp's side, and said with a smile, that means the green fruit has ripened, and now you are just a small apple. Patting Usopp on the shoulder, Rogu walked past him and walked towards the village. Usopp was shocked by Rogu's inexplicable words, and he couldn't react for a while. When he remembered to turn back, he found that Luogu had disappeared. After being silent for a long time, he suddenly started running crazily towards the village. No! The pirates are coming! 10 minutes later, Luogu had already appeared in front of a big mansion. This time, it was not because of divine help that he found the target so easily, but because the target was too conspicuous. The whole village is below, but this big house stands on a high slope. As long as you enter the village and take a casual look, you can find it. Standing at the door, Luogu began to think about countermeasures. Yes, he was the type who started thinking about countermeasures after finding a place. And, the thing to think about is very simple. Should I rush in and arrest him, or try to force this guy to reveal his true form? After this thought passed through his mind, he decided to knock on the door first. Boom boom boom. Who? The door was opened, and the young man with glasses squinted his eyes, put on a friendly look and said, "May I ask what you want?" Just borrow your head." Roga felt that there was nothing wrong with using these words here, just like what he said to Usopp just now, there was nothing wrong with using them there. Pirate's bounty, don't run away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 37. It was a quiet day for Captain Crow. Shung. Yes, very peaceful. Every day that I am active here as the butler Crabadle is very peaceful. Every day is peaceful, but not pleasant. How can a bloodthirsty shark pretend to be SpongeBob SquarePants? But for his own plan and his own purpose, he can only pretend. Although, this disguise made him want to die. But the one who will die in the end is definitely not him, but someone else, that weak young lady. She will eventually die and give everything to herself. I will completely give up my identity as a pirate and become a real rich man. What a bright future, what a magnificent blueprint. If he didn't have such a dream day waiting for him, Crow felt that he wouldn't be able to endure his current life for a day. Then, there was a knock on the door. Just borrow your head. That's what the man at the door said. If this is not Miss Kaya's home, if this is my own Black Cat Pirates, whoever says this will definitely not live for 3 seconds. But Captain Crow still kept smiling. Are you kidding? The howling wind suddenly blew. Not the natural wind, but the wind driven by the attack. Powerful, terrifying, and mortal. The moment the three thoughts surfaced, his footsteps subconsciously began to reverse, and he closed the door smoothly. Boom! The loud sound of the broken door echoed throughout the villa. Oh! Luogu raised his head, with a surprised smile on his lips. Away. Although I don't seem to have paid much attention to it, I always feel that since I went to sea, there are very few pirates I have encountered that can avoid my stick. Should I say that he is indeed a great pirate worth 16 million? Luogu walked in through the gap in the gate. Stepping into the magnificent hall, looking at the decoration here, Luogu couldn't help but tisk, it's really rich. He was targeted because he was rich. You, who are you? A middle-aged man with a goat's head must have been attracted by the loud noise, looking at Luogu with eyes full of horror and anger. Damn it, is it a pirate? Mr. Mary, you go. Captain Crow stood next to the goat head named Mary. I'll stop him. No, hurry up and take the eldest lady away, I'll be here. As soon as I said this, I suddenly felt a blur in front of my eyes, and Luogu disappeared. Immediately afterwards, a strange voice came from behind. Do you think that I came here to play games with you? Bang! Melly turned her head quickly, and all she could see was a figure flying out, breaking the handrail of the stairs in the process. Looking at the hall again, I saw the butler, Crabadle, standing up slowly from the floor of the hall. One of the glasses has been broken, and his body is a little more hideous and embarrassing. He stretched out his right hand, with 5 fingers pointing upwards, gently supported his glasses with the heel of his palm. You bastard, who the hell is it? This sentence was not complicated, but Melly felt inexplicably that the butler who said this sentence seemed to have changed his temperament. The gentle and elegant temperament was hidden, replaced by an inexplicable cold and sharp edge. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. Mei Li heard the strange man say, I am a pirate hunter, and it was very easy to find out that the famous captain of the Black Cat Pirates, Captain Crow, was tired of being a pirate, and decided to go to a rich man's house. Be a housekeeper at home. Well, it's very interesting, isn't it? A notorious pirate, to be a housekeeper for ordinary people. Tisk, you dare to do this, and someone dares to use you, which is still very admirable. See, pirates. Mei Li's expression was stiff. You, what are you talking about? He is our housekeeper, pirate hunter? You must have made a mistake, right? Huh, Luogu gave Mei Li an interesting look, and said with a smile, none of your business. Mei Li's face turned red immediately, and anger surged up. Mr. Mary, Hurry up, Captain Crow's voice came, this guy must be a pirate. You go and call everyone in the village, you can't let him do whatever he wants. Correct. Melly nodded immediately. If he had to choose between a stranger and Captain Crow who got along day and night, he would obviously not believe in Lugogu, but he still had some scruples. Then what should you do? I'm fine. I'll hold this guy back. Even if it's my life, I won't let him hurt the eldest lady. Captain Crow is deeply involved in the play. Meili nodded with tears in her eyes, I can only leave it to you. He doesn't want to be the protagonist in the story of you go and I won't go, he knows that at this moment, he must be decisive. So, he turned around and left. However, the next second, there was a hand on his shoulder. Meili was stunned for a moment, and then his whole body began to tremble. That pirate, he was right behind him, and he actually forgot about him. Well, I think, if you want to leave, how about taking your young lady away first? This is what the pirate said, after all, if we fight with this guy, she might get in the way. What? Mary was a little confused. Is this what a pirate should say? As a pirate, what about your professional ethics? Just as he was in a daze, he suddenly heard Lugogu say in a tone of surprise, it's gone. What's missing? Meili asked subconsciously, but the next second he found that something was missing. The butler is gone. The butler who was standing in the hall disappeared, leaving only the purple mist. Spoon? Silent step, Lugogu looked thoughtfully around, but found no 4 lines of characters, and then asked Meili, where is your eldest lady? Don't even think about it. Mary let out a desperate cry. He didn't know why the butler disappeared, but no matter what, the guy who was suspected of being a pirate in front of him must never get close to the eldest lady. Not even one step. Oh, forget it, Lugogu sat on the steps, since you don't care, then I definitely don't care. What tricks are you playing? Mary asked frightened. I always feel that during this process, my brain is really not enough. He instinctively felt that he had overlooked something, but he didn't know what was going on. Lugogu said, don't worry, I will help you young lady to take revenge. Revenge? Meili was dumbfounded, the eldest lady had an accident. Probably not yet, but it should be very soon, Lugogu said with a smile, my arrival will obviously stimulate him, and then, the things that could have been waiting, probably can't wait, for example, killing your big brother miss, inherit everything in this family. Pirate's Bounty, don't run away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 38. Impossible, Clabatel, Clabatel, what do you know about Clabatel? You evil pirate. Meili looked at Lugogu, his eyes wide open, as if he were looking at the sworn enemy who killed his father. Lugogu scratched his head and asked strangely, where am I evil? Meili's eyesight was cracking and he was a little bit stuck, and this simple question was a bit hard to answer. This guy said he was a pirate, right? After entering the door, apart from targeting their housekeeper, he didn't do anything harmful. Although it was by my side, I didn't hurt myself. And just now, he asked himself to take the eldest lady away first, so as not to be affected during the battle. The gentle one doesn't look like a pirate at all, he has no professional ethics at all. And many more. Meili suddenly scratched his head. Doesn't this guy look like a pirate? So who is he? Really pirate hunter? So, what about Crabately? Meili's hands and feet began to tremble for a moment, and he was obviously facing a choice now. And this choice is very likely to determine the life and death of the eldest lady. Lugogu rested his chin and waited leisurely for Meili to make a choice. As for the result, he really didn't care. What needs to be said has been said, and what has to be done has been done. Captain Crow has even thrown out skills such as Silent Step. In the end, if people still don't believe in me, then what qualifications do I have to help? Are they tired? Every adult needs to be responsible for their own choices, this is the reality. Melly is caught in a dilemma. On the one hand, she is the butler who gets along day and night, and on the other hand, she is a stranger. Although it seems that she is not a bad person, how can she believe that the butler who gets along with her day and night is a bad person? Mary. At this moment, a weaker voice came from the head. Logo Hung looked around and saw a girl who looked both fragile and frail, wearing a coat, standing at the top of the stairs looking at them. His eyes were full of worry and fear. Who is he? Miss. Melly was startled. Why did you come out? Just as he was about to pass by, he suddenly stopped, because there was a knife horizontally in front of his neck. The pitch-black blade shone with a cold light. The corners of Logo's mouth cracked. Hey, girl, let's exchange hostages, okay? You come here, and then he can live. Melly was dumbfounded, he thought this guy was a good guy just now. How could you do this? Melly was furious. However, when he saw the eldest lady on the roof, he was stunned for a moment, then bit his lip and walked downstairs. For a moment, his eyes were splitting. Miss, no. No, Mr. Mary, I will definitely save you. The weak girl mustered up great courage and walked down the stairs step by step. She slowly came to Logo and looked at Logo with a firm look. You let him go, and I will be your hostage. Cough, cough, cough. It can be seen that the girl's body is not very good. Logo smiled and said, okay. He stretched out his hand, hugged Kaya in his arms, pinched her neck with his backhand, took away the blade of the knife in his right hand, and gently patted Melly's face with the blade of the knife. You can leave now. Let the eldest lady go. A suppressed and low roar sounded. You can't control Melly's anger. Then he was kicked away by Logo. He kicked from the stairs to the door of the house. After Logo put the black pill into the scabbard, he smiled at Kaya. Let's start running. What? Kaya was looking at Melly with concern on her face. When she heard this sentence suddenly, she couldn't react for a while. When he came back to his senses, Logo had already caught him under his armpit, and his body reached the second floor in a blink of an eye. There was a crashing sound, and the overall appearance of his house gradually appeared in the field of vision, followed by a severe feeling of weightlessness. What? She is a young lady from a rich family. She has been in poor health since she was a child and was bedridden. When did she experience such an exciting thing? The only thought left in my mind was I jumped from the building. As for the idea of whether he would fall to his death or not, he didn't even have time to think about it, and there was only screaming in terror. Landing on his toes, taking away the weight from his body, Logo glanced at the girl under his arm and said helplessly, when are you going to call me? Hearing this, Kaya reluctantly raised her head and glanced at Logo, biting her lower lip with tears in her eyes. Logo grinned and said, let's go. Can you not go? What Kaya wanted to say but couldn't say, she could only swallow it back in her stomach in the end, because from the next second, all the surrounding scenes had already started to reverse crazily. Almost in the blink of an eye, the house was no longer visible, surrounded by receding trees and weeds. This man, where do you want to take yourself? In fact, there is really no suitable place to take her. What's more, Logo's mind has never been on this girl, but has been looking around, looking for the 4 lines of Captain Crow. However, after running like this for 10 minutes, he had completely reached the back of the village, into a huge forest, and Captain Crow did not appear. Logo stopped in his tracks and put Kaya on the ground. Kaya calmed down a bit, and looked at Logo with fear in his eyes. Logo grinned. This seems to be a miscalculation. Ah, Kaya was at a loss. What do you mean? I don't understand. Well, I was originally thinking that this guy has been hiding for so long for your family's money, and the key person is you. If I take you away, he will definitely catch up with me. As a result, there is no. Luogu looked around and said a little tangledly, logically speaking, if he loses you, all his plans will collapse. He won't really ignore you, right? You, what are you talking about, Miss Kaya said angrily, who is after my family's money? Your butler. Impossible, Miss Kaya shook her head without hesitation, he is not such a person, you are talking nonsense. Oh. Sure enough, it's here. Luogu did not argue with Miss Kaya, but said with a smile, let me just say, if he catches you, how could he ignore you? After all, without you, his plan it's useless. Focusing on the direction from which it came, the four-line character is rushing towards it at an extremely fast speed. Running so fast, have you given up your disguise? There was a smile on Luogu's lips, and he said to Miss Kaya, now, if you want to know the truth of the matter, then stop talking for a while, do you understand? As soon as he finished speaking, the sharp edge of the sword pierced through the tranquility of the forest, and a figure in black fell from the sky. The 10-pointed sharp blade embedded in the glove outlined the color of death, bringing a wave of fallen leaves all over the sky. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate's Bounty Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 39. Just look at this appearance, this formation, this terrifying weapon. Luogu felt like he didn't need to say anything, so he scratched his head and said, this is exposed. Is it really okay? Let her go. Captain Crow's voice was calm, but cold, as if it contained an icy coldness that could freeze a person's bone marrow. What if I say, no, Luogu said with a smile, tell me, if I kill her now, what will happen to you? You dare. Captain Crow's eyes are breathtaking. Miss Kaya next to her couldn't help shivering just looking at Captain Crow like this. She didn't intend to be obedient, but Luogu told her to keep silent, so she kept silent. How is this possible? My own health is not good, if it hurts the people around me, it is not worth it. Therefore, she originally made up her mind that once her housekeeper really came, she would let her go immediately. But now, the butler did indeed come, but whether it was the other party's tone, eyes, or the terrifying 10-fingered sword blade, they were all wrapped in a thick layer of extreme strangeness. This made her swallow what she originally wanted to say, and then just quietly listen to the conversation between the two people in front of her. Don't you dare, Luogu stretched out his hand and pinched Kaya's face and said with a smile, so, you not only plan to take money from their family, but also plan to take this young lady into your pocket? Captain Crow closed his eyes, seemingly helpless. When he opened them again, the murderous look in his eyes dissipated a lot. I don't know where you know me, and I don't know where you come from. You know about this matter. Because these things are not important. Now, you have indeed succeeded, and you have successfully grasped the key point of this matter. If this is the case, tell us your purpose. Well, I'm a pirate hunter, Luogu said with a smile. Of course the purpose is to catch pirates. Do you think I'm an idiot? Captain Crow sneered, if you are just a pirate hunter, being a hero and thinking you can protect everyone, isn't that what those idiots should do? Catch an ordinary person and bring her here to give us an opportunity to talk freely, doesn't this just mean that you have other purposes? Luogu clapped his hands, Beijiki Luo is indeed worthy of his reputation. In this case, let me just say it. My purpose is very simple. You eat meat and I can drink some soup, right? After disrupting my plan to such an extent, you still have such an idea. Captain Crow stared at Luogu with a cold gaze. Why do you think I will agree? It doesn't matter, Luogu said with a smile, if you don't agree, I will kill her. Everyone will be beaten, and no one will pass. You. Captain Crow took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and said coldly, "You won." Anger filled his chest, but Crow's words were sincere. Now that it has reached this level, it is better to agree to him temporarily and wait until the moment everything is over, than kill this hateful pirate hunter. At that time, there was no second Miss Kaya to blackmail him. After making up such an idea in his heart, Captain Crow's mentality gradually calmed down. "Ha ha ha, not bad," Luogu said with a smile. "I'll give you a word, those who know the current affairs are brilliant. Well, you definitely don't understand. But it's not important, the important thing is, what should we do next? Although we have reached an agreement, it seems that I have indeed sabotaged your plan, and that Meili will probably suspect you, and this young lady already knows a lot of things." Captain Crow had veins popping on his forehead and took a deep breath. "It doesn't matter, Meili, just kill her. As for her," he pointed at Kaya, "you can take her to hide in this forest. Just say to the outside world that she was abducted by you, and this is the fact. After a while, I will have one of my men come down here. Proficient in hypnotism, when the time comes, hypnotize the eldest lady, let her leave a suicide note, and leave all her property to me. When the villagers find out, all they can see is her suicide note and corpse. What do you think? How about it?" Luogu nodded. "This plan is good." Then he asked Kaya, "What do you think?" Miss Kaya is already trembling all over. After listening quietly for so long, if she still doesn't know what kind of person this housekeeper is and what kind of purpose she has, then her IQ is hovering around negative. Especially after Luogu finished speaking, Captain Crow asked back, "A person who is destined to die, what do you ask her for?" "After all, we are the parties involved," Luogu said with a smile. "Then our agreement is considered to be reached." Yes, Captain Crow nodded. "Then I'll take her away," Luogu asked again. "Don't leave a contact code. If you see the first house at the east end of the village, there is a black cat pattern on the lower left corner of the west wall, then it's time to do it. Then, you can take her to the seaside on the west side, and we will meet there." "All right." Luogu made an OK gesture. "Then we'll leave first." Captain Crow stood still, quietly watching Rogu pinch Miss Kaya under his arm again, then passed him by, and fell into the jungle. The footsteps gradually receded, and Captain Crow still maintained this posture. He was thinking about how to deal with this hateful pirate hunter after this matter was over. He hates when people sabotage his plans. And Luogu even asked him to temporarily change the plan, which completely touched his back. A ridiculous hunter with dreams of getting rich. After reviewing the whole plan in his mind, Captain Crow showed a cruel smile. "I'll let you know how much pirates are, huh?" "No." Having said this, he suddenly turned around. Since he wanted to hide in the woods, why did he go back? The image of Luogu passing by him reappeared in his mind, and he seemed to see a faint smile on the corner of Luogu's mouth. His face turned livid for a moment. "I was cheated." "Yo, haven't you left yet?" A hateful voice suddenly came from behind, and Captain Crow turned around slowly. Luogu's smile that made people want to smash it was in front of him, but Miss Kaya was no longer by his side. "Since you haven't left, why don't you need to leave? I have a brand new cell here, please go in and live there." Luogu held the iron rod in his hand. "It's just right, no one around is coming to get in the way." Pirate's Bounty Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 40. What about her? Those who didn't rush to make a move immediately, Captain Crow's voice seemed to be squeezed out from between his teeth. "Where is that woman?" Luogu picked his ears with his free left hand. "I'm home, do I need to ask?" "You." Captain Crow's face turned livid. "Why on earth are you meddling in your own business here?" "I don't like hearing what you say." Luogu looked helpless. "As a pirate hunter, catching pirates, how can you say that you are nosy? What kind of pirate hunter are you?" You caught that woman, it's obviously. Speaking of this, Crow suddenly paused, his pupils shrank. You didn't grab her to talk to me alone, but to lure me out. Obviously, Luogu said, that's why I wonder why you all like to think complicated things that are obviously simple. Then, why do you still say those things to me? Of course it's because I want to expose your true face, by the way. After all, it's hard to be a good person, because when you do good things, you have to tell others that what you do is good. Luogu sighed and said, to be honest, if it weren't for the convenience of this matter, I guess I wouldn't bother talking to you. Hateful. Captain Crow's eyes were already red. You ruined my plan, I can't spare you. Are you about to start? Luogu said with a smile. I didn't come here from a long way to talk about crosstalk with you. Come on, let me see Beiji Ki Luo, after all. Before I finished speaking, the edge was already close at hand. Huo. Luogu smiled slightly and held the iron rod in front of him. The ear-piercing sound of metal rubbing against each other, accompanied by sparks splashing in all directions, was struck by a huge force, causing Luogu's footsteps to retreat slightly. Looking up again, the black shadow flashed, and it was already in mid-air, but landed on a tree. Standing on the tree branch, Captain Crow's face sank like water. I will not kill you easily, I will let you experience the real horror. Death will approach you little by little, but you will never. I don't know when it will come. Luogu looked at him with glowing eyes, but didn't speak. There was only a moment of silence. The next second, cold words came from Captain Crow's mouth. Spoon. Whoosh. A wind drifts by, accompanied by purple smoke. The sharp blade cuts through the air, but no one can be seen. A small tree not far from Luogu has been cut into several sections. Luogu stood where he was, but remained motionless. Suddenly the wind roared in my ears, as if it was very close at hand. Purple smoke rose again, and a big tree was left with sword marks. Luogu still didn't move, just stretched out his fingers and scratched the bridge of his nose. All of a sudden, purple smoke boiled behind him, followed by layers of cold blades appearing in front of his eyes. Alternating fingers, the cold blades alternated, forming a net, completely enveloping Luogu. Die. A cold face and cold eyes under his glasses appeared next to Luogu, and a cold voice suddenly sounded, which seemed to be the last death notice. Boom. There was a muffled sound, and an iron rod suddenly appeared and hit the chin of that cold face. The coldness and coldness were instantly replaced by severe pain and distortion. The whole body was sent flying directly by this sudden attack. The person was in the air, but his eyes were fixed on Luogu. It's boring. Luogu also adjusted his figure slightly. As a great pirate with million, you have disappointed me a little. At the same time as the voice fell, his figure also moved. In just an instant, he appeared in front of Crow, who was flying back. There is no bells and whistles, and there is no boiling smoke. There is just an iron rod that I don't know when I raised it, and then smashed it down. The howling wind hit first, and Captain Crow's 10 blades were in front of him in an instant. Boom. There was a muffled sound, and Captain Crow, who was flying backwards, was directly hit to the ground by the stick. His back fell to the ground, and severe pain suddenly hit his whole body. Julie. The soft voice sounded, but it brought the worst premonition. Looking up again, the stick fell again, but this time the stick that fell was full of despair of death. 10 blades was still standing in front of him, and Captain Crow didn't even have time to make the slightest adjustment. Snapped. There was a crisp sound, followed by a crash. The 10 blades are broken. The bones of both hands were crushed by this huge force and completely shattered. What? A scream came from his mouth. Since the day he went to sea, when had he suffered such a terrible injury? However, the stick was raised again. Captain Crow's heart skipped a beat, and the next second, the stick had already fallen on his head. Boom. This sound is like a ripe watermelon. Well, it's over. Luogu took back the iron rod, looked at Captain Crow, whose eyes were white and foaming at the mouth, and shook his head helplessly. It always feels like a pity. When I first met this guy, I felt that this guy seemed very powerful. It was precisely because of this that Luogu looked forward to him. He hasn't really met an opponent since he went to sea. In terms of pure bounty, they are just Bucky the Clown and Captain Crow. As a result, the clown Bucky hit the wall himself and fell unconscious, while the one in front of him, he had given enough attention and enough space, but the result was nothing more than that. Could it be that my capacity has become so big? Is it beyond the capacity of the East China Sea? Luogu felt that he was expanding infinitely in a limited space. Then he patted himself on the forehead. Speaking of which, there is another Aaron. Click is a waste, but Aaron's strength should be pretty good. Why don't you try to find him? He squatted down and tied up Captain Crow. Luogu carried it on his shoulders, and muttered as he walked, Aaron's strength should be regarded as the top in the East China Sea. Let's see what will happen if we fight with him. No matter what, at least I can have a simple understanding of my strength understanding. Thinking of this, Luogu made a decision. Although the restaurant on the sea is a goal, but this goal is not easy to find. How can it be so easy to find a ship floating on the sea? What's more, it's the wrong time now. That guy Crick arrived after Luffy and the others left. Now he can't do anything else except eat, so he shouldn't be waiting there, right? So, instead of that, it's better to go to Kokoyashi village to find Aaron for a friendly talk. By the way, collect this guy's wealth. This guy knows how to accumulate wealth all day long. He must be very rich. Just as he was thinking of this, the sound of messy footsteps appeared in front of him, and when he looked up, Mei Li was rushing towards with a group of guys holding farm tools.